Eleanor Roosevelt had this great quote. She said that poor minds talk about other people, average minds talk about events, but great minds talk about ideas. Welcome to the Take On Everything podcast. Hey guys, welcome to the Take On Everything. All right, we've got Spike Cohen on. This was the big guest we were all warning you and exciting you guys about. And we finally had him, So we snagged him. Sarahbrook, we got, she was able to snag him for us. And we're going to talk about libertarianism because Spike Cohen was the 2020 VP nominee for the Libertarian Party.
That's true.
So congratulations on that. I really got turned on the Libertarian Party, especially because of your campaign, which is fantastic.
Thank you.
So Sarahbrook and I wanted to have you on to really kind of introduce the audience to libertarianism, talk a little bit about it, and then we'll get into some Libertarian Party details for anybody that's interested. And hopefully we'll have some good conversations. So welcome, Spike.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
This is
absolutely
fitting episode because I actually became an official libertarian today.
Oh, really?
Someone told me that I wasn't. And it's been months and I never got included into the club.
That's the moment.
It was they called me pathetic, really, which is kind of true in most things that I do.
So you're a peak libertarian.
You're
now,
leveled up
because not only were you told that you weren't a libertarian, you got called names too.
I thought you're peak once you get called racist and homophobic and not a real libertarian all in one day. When
you have to be called a libtard and a Nazi within a 24-hour period. But you can nap in between. It can happen a previous evening and the following morning, like how the Jews count the days. We could do it that way. It has to be within any 24-hour period. As soon as you get called one, the timer starts for the other. And it's pretty strict. We've seen people that have had it happen just outside of the 24-hour window, and they're still not libertarians. It's very sad.
Oh my God.
It's called the Libertarian Challenge. For you guys that don't know, it's a Libertarian Challenge. Once it starts, it's a countdown. So you have to accomplish all of these steps and all these goals in order to become a real libertarian. If it's 23, and 59 seconds, you got to restart. You got to
come right in. And if you're able to do it with the exact same statement, then you actually become a lifetime member.
Card carrying?
Little known fact.
Yes, you get mailed a card.
It would be wow. Little Easter egg of the libertarian.
I feel like these specifications might be why this party has such a hard time growing, because holy hell, the stars have to align with just the right amount of idiots around you to get that to happen. All right, James. So you're a new libertarian too, right?
Yeah, I'm actually brand new, interestingly enough. So I was kind of involved in the liberty movement for a while. I kind of dropped off the scene back in, 2010 and did my own research. Then I finally this year actually joined the party, I think in August, July or August. So yeah, I think so as a new libertarian, and Sarahbrook, you just joined. And today apparently you officially
joined today. Yeah. Yeah. Your card's in the mail, by the way.
Oh my God. How'd you get my address? Zuckerberg,
yeah.
Or Bezos at this point.
Well, I'm glad that you guys have joined the party and the movement. This is where all the fun's happening.
How long have you been a libertarian, Spike?
Well, I have been a ideological libertarian for the better part of 10 years, and I have been a member of the party for roughly 12.2 months.
Wait a minute, what?
Yeah, I joined last year.
You joined, you joined just last year and then you became the vice presidential candidate?
Yes. But keep in mind, hold on, hear me out. I have been active in libertarian politics and activism for several years now. So it's not like I just came out of the blue in terms of being a libertarian, but yes.
Kids, follow your dreams. What's stopping you? You can join something and be the VP immediately. Stop aiming so low.
Don't aim low. Go straight in. Go, hey, this party looks nice. You know what you need is a VP candidate. Me.
That was your pitch.
That was my pitch. That was my pitch. I said, I'm not filing this unless, no, that's not true. But no, I did. I joined last year. Yeah.
Wow. It is like the fastest growing movement. And like, it's cool to see like people that you think have been members for like years or decades are brand new, just like you. And we're all just like on this journey together.
You really can't tell. I have met people around my age who just became libertarians like y'all did. I've met people around my age who have been libertarians since like the 90s when they were teenagers. And I've seen everything in between. I've seen older people that just joined. I've seen older people who met Gary Nolan and the people that originally founded this party in the early 70s. So it's really, and everything in between. So it is, you can't judge a book by its cover in this party, because there are people who have been in it from the beginning for, the nearly 50 years the party has existed. And there are people who just got here, today, like you. So it's you really can't tell. And it also doesn't necessarily, you can't necessarily tell by what level of involvement they have, because there have been people that have just sort of been casually involved with it for decades. And there are people that jumped in a year ago and became the vice presidential.
So
it's a wide range there.
It's a whole spectrum.
We are the most diverse party that I've found. I will say that. Just like so many different socioeconomic backgrounds, so many different age groups, just like it's a real melting pot. And that's what I appreciate about it. I feel like it truly represents America, and not just Republicans are this demographic and Democrats are this demographic. It's like libertarians are everybody. And that's why we're the best party.
And the beauty is that we're being attracted to the idea of freedom. So the reason Democrats have been able to build some level of racial diversity in their party is because they do race-based pandering to specific groups, where they craft, a messaging and policy platform and I guess portfolio that they present to this group. And then completely separate to that, they say something completely different to this group to get them on board. And then they say something completely different to this group. And the fact that these things often contradict each other, and there's no way that they can actually do these things because someone's getting lied to, they just do it anyway. And they've been doing it so long that they just get away with it. Republicans have really started to coalesce around the idea of becoming a white identitarian party. They still have people of different colors in the party, and always will, but they really are kind of embracing this idea that, white people are going to be the majority for quite some time, so we're just going to lean into that. And then you've got libertarians who are like, we don't care what your skin color is, and we're not going to pander to or against you or play good cop or bad cop to you based on that. We believe that you will do best when you are most free. And we believe that any of the issues that you are facing can be easily traced back to various excesses and abuses that come from a government that thinks it can impose itself upon you whenever it sees fit. And that is the core of the problem. And it's also the solution is to unroll that. And that's what libertarianism is based on.
So libertarian sounds wonderful. Like in theory, you can't really dispute it, yet it's not catching on with like long-term voters and Democrats and stuff. It's hard to make them see that their life would be better without government. So how do we get over that hump?
So there's two different things here. One is the actually selling them on the message, right? So there's the convincing them that the idea of them getting free stuff or of them being protected, that's kind of what the Republicans say, isn't really that good of an idea, because in the case of the free stuff, it's the person that robbed you that's giving you some of your stuff back. And in the case of the protection, it's like a protection racket. It's literally modeled on the old mafia protection racket. Someone comes into your business and goes, nice place you got here. Be a real shame if something was to happen to it. That's literally what they're doing. So your protectors are the ones that put you in a situation of requiring protection. So in both cases, you've, as Joe Jorgensen's first running mate, Harry Brown, said back in the 90s, government comes in, breaks someone's leg, steals their wallet, uses some of the money to buy them crutches, and then says, hey, if it wasn't for me, you wouldn't have those crutches. So that's the first part of it, is kind of selling them on the reason you're in the position of needing the government is because the government put you in that position. Once you get them sold on that, which is the easy part, or at least to me, it has been the easy part. The next part is, okay, but I don't want the other side to win. So if they're Democrats, they don't want Republicans to win. If they're Republican, they don't want Democrats to win. I mean, look, no one likes, I've yet to meet anyone that likes Joe Biden, and yet he legitimately won like 80 million votes. And that was people voting against Donald Trump. Donald Trump has quite a bit of a cult of personality built around him, but the vast majority of people that voted for him are not these cultists that run around screaming, losing their minds. The vast majority of people that voted for Donald Trump were voting against Joe Biden. Most Republican voters are voting against someone else, which is why the Republican politicians do the good cop, bad cop routine. They play good cop to their voter base, but more importantly, they play bad cop to the other voter base. And the other guy plays good cop to his base, more importantly, plays bad cop to their base. And then that way, they're able to keep people in this dialectic of voting for the Republicans, because they go, man, I really don't like Joe Biden, but if we don't stop Donald Trump, everything's going to fall apart. Or, man, Donald Trump really hadn't done anything he said he was going to do, but Joe Biden is going to ruin and it's intentional. They do this intentionally. That is a much harder thing to sell to active Republican voters, which is why, for the most part, I don't talk to them. I talk to people who already recognize that the Republicans don't have anything for them, which is why I typically try to talk to people that either don't vote or rarely vote. And I'm told that's not a good strategy, but I'll tell you what, first of all, it's cheaper to reach out to them because the political messaging in their spheres has a lot less demand, which means it's less expensive to reach them. And the reason they don't vote isn't because they're lazy or they don't care. It's because they already have gone through the process of realizing that voting Republican or Democrat is a total and complete waste of time. 80% of my job is already done. Now I just have to convince them there is something actually worth voting for, us. So that has been largely my idea of how to do outreach, because a lot of those people that vote Republican or Democrat who already recognize our party, how often do you see it? Yeah, I'd vote for you, but we got to stop Trump, or I'd vote for you, but we got to stop Biden. But I think you're the most right, but we can't afford to lose this election to whichever Republican I hate more than the other one. They're never going to vote for us until we've built enough of a base of our own for them to go, oh, wow, you actually have a shot of winning. Okay, fine, I'll give you a chance. I'll vote for you because now I'm not scared of Biden losing or I'm not scared of Trump losing. So my whole thing has been, let's reach even in this election, this record high election that we've had. It's the highest number of voter turnout since I think the 1950s or 1940s or something like that. Even still, something like 35% of eligible voters did not vote. If their vote were counted, none of the above would have won in a landslide. And in most election cycles, it's between 45 and 50% that don't vote. So it's almost a majority of voters that don't vote. So in my mind, that's who we reach. The people who have already looked at this system and recognize it's a giant country club, as George Carlin said, and we ain't in it. And that, reaching out to them. So that's sort of what my focus has been.
What a perfect.
And that's beautiful. And I love that. I love that because you already have the disaffected people. Side note, Sarahbrook and I we were guests on a podcast that was based out of Baltimore. It's a progressive podcast, and they wanted to kind of do election coverage and that kind of thing. There was a podcast previous to that I was on from the same people that they were trying to find, Joe Biden, a Trump, a Green Party, Libertarian Party. And I was on that representing Libertarians. They could not find a Joe Biden, somebody who actually liked Joe Biden. They could not do it. Exist. And he even asked me to find someone for him. And I said, I don't know. I can find you somebody that'll vote for him, but I do not know anybody that actually likes him. And even the Trump guy was like, I mean, Trump's okay. He does some things I like, but like most of the stuff I don't like. But Biden's a communist. So it's this fear-based politics that keeps everybody in line just to scare everybody to death.
It's a con game. And yes, I know plenty of people who were like, I'm voting for Joe Biden because I can't. I mean, like loved ones of mine, because most of my friends and social associates, people in my social circles, are not from the political world. they're actually from the business world and the Latin dance world. So like most of my friends are not politically libertarian, although I did pull a lot of them over to vote for us. But a lot of them were like, I love you. You sound the best out of all these people, but I can't let Trump win, or I can't let Biden win. It was mostly I can't let Trump win. They don't like Biden. They hated Biden. They dunked on, they couldn't stand Biden. They liked my posts and tweets and retweeted my stuff that was anti-Biden. Then they turned around and voted for Biden because they wanted to stop Trump. And because they recognized that the likelihood of us winning was very, very, very low, especially since they didn't vote for us. But at the end of the day, they were voting strategically. Now, the strategicness of their voting is that they're refusing to acknowledge or willfully ignoring the fact that whenever it comes time to screw over the American people, or to continue a war, or to implement a new regulation or tax, or to in some other way impose themselves upon the lives and the rights and the property of the people, Democrats and Republicans come together in record time with all the stops pulled out. Those grand bipartisan, every time I hear a massive bipartisan movement in DC, guaranteed trillions of dollars were just robbed from us and future generations that haven't even been born yet to hand off to the crony billionaires who sponsored to put them in office, right? So we know that they work together every day. And the sheer audacity that they have to then turn around and be like, this is my mortal enemy. Like they work together every single day. But the reason they do it is because it works. Because the 98%, 99% of voters either say, all right, fine, I'll vote for you, or they just stop voting. They go, okay, you know what? This whole thing's a mess. I'm not voting for anything. And it's tough because then I show up and I'm like, hey, everybody, I'm a politician. And boy, have I got some great news for you. And they're already thinking, get the hell out of my face. I already know that you're full of garbage. There's already a tough road to hoe, which is why I've kind of often used less than orthodox ways of reaching out to them to show them like, no, we're completely different than everything you've seen before. But yeah, no, it is a long con. It is the equivalent of, kids playing their parents against each other or something. Like it's a long con.
Yeah, something interesting about like the pandemic relief that was done earlier. We all got $1,200 checks, right? So that was the big selling.
Yay!
The problem is for each one of those $1,200 checks, it costs like $17,000 or $18,000 per check that actually went to corporations and not the people. And yet all people could see was this check that was in their mailbox, which is why Trump wanted his name on the thing, because he wanted to get credit for it. Yep. The conservative Republican, the guy that was going to eliminate the debt in 4 years, was the one that I want my name on this check, and also passing out billions to crony corporations. That just made me laugh. That's the bipartisan stuff you were talking about.
I'm going to start bringing you along with me, both of you along with me, because literally when someone starts talking about the $1,200, I go, you realize that they ran up 17 grand in debt in your name that went along with that $1,200, right? And you're going to have to pay that off with interest. And people are like,
think about all the cocaine I could just buy because of a $1,200 check that just fell into my mailbox. You're thinking long term. I'm thinking I'm stuck in my house
without any cocaine.
Yeah, I'm stuck in my house in the middle of the pandemic with no cocaine.
With no cocaine, and the heater's
not. We moved to Oregon.
The heater's not working. I have no cocaine, but I have this $1,200 check. And I'm screwed because the $1,200 is gone. Still no cocaine. Still no heater. See, you get it.
You say, I'm living the American dream. Okay.
This is the American nightmare. No heater, no cocaine. No, it's listen. This is the con that they sell on people, and we get frustrated as libertarians. We get frustrated, right? Because we're smart and we're right. And that can lead you to be very smug, especially when you're surrounded by people who, for whatever reason, have not put the dots together and have not put the pattern together. And so they're sitting there going, I just got $1,200. Libertarianism doesn't work. You weren't going to give me $1,200. And you're sitting there like, you schmuck, you just lost, you have no cocaine. And so you're thinking that, and you're like, You just had like 17, 18 grand run up in your name. The reason everything's so screwed up economically for you is because they shut the economy down. The reason they shut the economy down was to combat a virus that spread out of control because they didn't allow testing to happen for the first 2 months that the virus was here. You had American companies that were making COVID-19 test kits, had to sell all of them overseas because it was illegal for them to sell them here. It was illegal for anyone to do COVID testing. I remember going into a doctor. I was at the New Hampshire primaries in February, and I got super, super sick. And it was right when they were talking about COVID. And I'm like, I was just around people from because the New Hampshire primaries, people come from all over the world to witness the spectacle. And I was hugging people and everything else. And I'm like, oh no, I probably got this thing. And so I go to the doctor and I'm like, I think I have that coronavirus thing. And they're like, you might. And I said, well,
the shrug.
I was like, can I get tested? They're like, nope, sure can't. And I was like, so what? And they're like, stay home for a couple weeks. And I did. I stayed home for a couple weeks. I missed out on the Florida convention. I ended up canceling the Kentucky convention just in case. Because the whole time I'm like, I might have COVID. Turns out I didn't have COVID. I just had like a really bad cold or flu or whatever it was. Because I got tested later for the antibodies. But the point is, if I had COVID, there would have been no way of knowing. And there were so many other people who weren't symptomatic going around potentially spreading COVID, and people who were symptomatic and just assumed it was cold and flu season, hadn't even heard of COVID. Most Americans hadn't even heard of COVID until late February, early March. That is why it spread out of control. And the government goes, this is your fault. And they blame it on us for trying to live our lives. And they say, oh, this is your fault the fatality rate's high. It's not because we're shoving COVID patients in nursing homes while the nursing homes are saying, please stop putting COVID patients in our nursing homes. And in fact, in Washington, they didn't even tell them that they were COVID patients. They just told them they were sick. And it spread out of control. That's why the fatality rate in Washington was like 10% initially. Because A, they weren't even testing anyone except for the ones who were already dead in cooperation with the CDC, and B, they were putting them they were crowding them into nursing homes, and with the people that are the most likely to die from it, old, infirm people. And then they turn around and go, it's your fault for not wearing a mask. It's your fault for being 4 feet away from your person that you live with. It's your fault for going to a furniture store, whatever the hell. Like this, they had to do the pivot. And now it allows them to have total control of things. And it allows them to fit people.
Yeah, I think was it Cuomo in New York did that too.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was saying Cuomo. Yeah. He was the other one. That's why New York's fatality rate is so high. So it was like Cuomo in New York, and then you got it wasn't Inslee. Was it Inslee?
Inslee in Washington, and I believe in Michigan, and there was one other state as well. Their policy in place for dealing with a novel virus was to put the sick people in nursing homes.
With old
I told you we're going to surround our grandmas.
With
That's
COVID patients.
I told you that.
Now
Sister, but this one is actually your fault because you
we're going to fight COVID with COVID. But that's literally what they did, right? And then they turn around and they go, okay, the hospitals can now only treat COVID patients. And the hospitals go, whoa, wait a second. We have the protocols in place to protect our non-COVID patients from our COVID patients. So they're telling the hospitals that they can't treat anyone but COVID patients, which not only causes people who have cancer and other serious illnesses that have a far higher rate of fatality than COVID if they're left untreated to not be able to get treatment. It's also causing hospitals to go out of business and furlough their workers because they're only allowed to keep their freaking ER and ICU open, which is what they actually lose money on, and not be able to do the elective surgeries and the cancer screenings and the MRIs and the image, all the stuff that they actually make money on. And then meanwhile, they're putting COVID patients in nursing homes where the nursing homes are saying, we don't have the protocols in place to protect COVID patients from 95-year-olds who have 16 other illnesses already, who are basically in like a long-term palliative care. Like, this is what happens when government controls every single aspect of a society. Now, all of the decisions are being made by central planners. And we are conditioned very early on that authority equals expertise. And yet, outside of that abstract concept we had conditioned as children, we recognize that politicians and bureaucrats and cronies are often idiots who have no idea what they're talking about, who have never actually been involved in the thing that they're regulating. And yet, because of our, early, even before we could talk conditioning, we so often go, well, the people in charge are saying that's what we have to do. And then we watch it fail over and over and over again. That's in the best of situations. In the worst of situations, it's being handled by people who have a vested interest in the problem getting worse in order to be able to leverage our fear and to be able to profit off of it. So either way, it's not going to nearly ever be as good of an outcome as if you simply allow people to make decisions for themselves and organizations to make decisions for themselves based on their perception of what the best way forward is. It's not perfect, but it's far better than some centrally planned idea coming from thousands of miles away from some idiot who has no idea what he's talking about.
Hearing that rant, I just know that the government should be in charge of more stuff.
Yes.
Yes. I don't know, maybe do like orphanages. I think they'd really
government
take
orphanages.
Off. Government orphanages would just solve homeless. They were the best. Do you know any orphans? I don't.
Did you see Annie?
No.
That was a Little Orphan Annie. That was about the how great government orphanages were.
They made a movie about that's propaganda.
Have you legitimately not heard of Little Orphan Annie?
No, what is that?
How old are you?
Hold on, I'll give it a goog. I'm 22.
Wow, there are grown adults who don't know. James, do you know Little Orphan Annie?
So I do. I am old enough. So I have seen several iterations of that movie. And
oh my God,
orphans have it great, which is why so last episode, Sarahbrook and I were tossing around the idea jokingly of the government running orphanages. And so we were joking about the orphan industrial complex where they would kill parents to put them into these orphanages to prop up the orphanage.
Yeah, except that's actually happened in the past in limited situations. Yeah, that's actually a thing. But
I'm upset that there's a sexy Orphan Annie Halloween costume.
Wait,
yeah, I just Googled it. No, I told you I Google Orphan Annie. And
okay, but why is that what would come up? So I'm just wrapping my head around that there are grown adults walking around. They'd have never heard of Little Orphan.
I have never said I was an adult.
Well, that's fair.
Did you just assume my capabilities?
Your capabilities? Yeah, I did. I apologize. I shouldn't have, especially after you said you didn't know who Annie was. But this is based on what libertarians believe, right? So we when we talk about you're violating the NAP and all this stuff, we get weird and religious about it. But the reason we're so big about the NAP is because it's the foundation behind all the problems that we're facing. The reason we recognize the NAP, the reason that we believe that we recognize that people own themselves. If you own yourself, you own your body. If you own your body and your life, that means that you own your ability to speak and your ability to think for yourself and your ability to make decisions for yourself. These are your rights. We recognize that you own your labor because that comes from your body. And we recognize that you own the product of your labor, which is your property. All of these things are inherent to you to use as you wish. You can share it. You can sell it. You can give it away. You can lend it. You can trade it. You can mix it with other things to make new property. You can do whatever you want with it because it's yours and it's inherent to you. And we recognize that anyone trying to take from your life, your body, your labor, your property, and so forth, to try to infringe upon your rights is bad. Not only is it bad because you shouldn't hurt people or take their things, but it also doesn't work. If I can take from the two of you and everyone else listening or watching this, whenever I see fit, I don't have to give you good values because I'm not getting things based on providing you with value. I'm getting things because I'm taking it from you. And there's nothing you can do about it. So I don't have to give good values. And I don't have to be a good steward of what I have. I don't have to make good decisions with what I have because I can take more from you whenever I want to. And if we boil down all of the problems that people are facing, all of the harmful and abusive and inequitable outcomes that people are facing at the hand of an overbearing, overly involved, and overly costly and intruding government. All of that boils down to a system whereby a handful of powerful people have presumed the authority to impose upon us and take from us whenever they see fit. And that kind of arrangement, we could not expect it to lead to anything other than the bad outcomes that we're facing. That's why we're so big about the NAP, is because if government and people were acknowledging each other's self-ownership, for lack of a better word, or individual autonomy, we wouldn't have the problems that we're facing or anywhere near it, because so many of the problems are being caused by people trying to impose themselves upon others. It's not the ideal arrangement for how humans interact with each other.
So what's the next big thing for the Libertarian Party then? So like we have this great idea, this great philosophy, this great vision for libertarian utopia on how the world's supposed to work.
Right.
But we still don't have people on board and we still have a lack of impact.
Right.
So what's the next step for us before the next elections?
Well, first, let's take stock of what just happened in this election cycle, the good and the bad. Let's start with the good, because it'll be good to start with the good. It'll make the bad seem less bad. Our membership grew by 30% this year. Actually 30% just since March, and I think by about 40% this year. That's a huge growth. It's the biggest year-over-year growth that we've ever had, and we now have the highest number of paid members that we've ever had in party history. The number of people that registered as libertarians went up something like 10% this year to the highest number of registered libertarians. That's a big deal because people tend to vote how they register. So that increased our built-in voter base, people that, we don't have to worry about whether they're voting for us or not. So that's a good thing. The number of active activists that we have in local and state affiliates is the highest number it's ever been. And we're not even including the 100,000 plus people that are still kind of signed on as somewhat casual supporters of Joe and mine, that we're in the process of transitioning all of our social media over to grassroots activism from, what's left of the campaign. Including them, it's even, it's almost double the number that it's ever been before. These are all really good things for the future. Let's talk about, other good things that happen. We had a record number of libertarians that got elected during an incumbent election cycle, something like 20 libertarians. We now have almost 500 elected libertarians in office across the country, mostly local and regional offices, but across the country. What else? About it. Okay, so, and also we have records for libertarians getting votes in Indiana with Donald Rainwater, Arkansas with Ricky Harrington, Kentucky with Brad Barron, and I'm forgetting some other states as well. But we had some really good growth from previous elections. Now let's talk about what happened at the top of the ticket. Because the media shut us out, and because we were in an incumbent re-election cycle, and because thanks to COVID and the pandemic, this became an election that was entirely about, can you spend $1 billion in advertising? Because we're not really going to let you do in-person events. We did in-person events all over. They wouldn't let us. They forced us to limit the number of people that came out to them. And that severely restricted our ability to get our message out. Despite all of that, we got more votes than we have ever, both by percentage and number, than we've ever gotten during an incumbent re-election cycle. So statistically, when an incumbent is running for re-election in the White House, the number of people that vote third party goes down to about like the 20 or 30% or something like that, what the number is that are willing to vote third party when there are two people that aren't incumbents that are running as a Republican and Democrat. And the reason is because when an incumbent is running for re-election, those people on the fringes are more likely to double down on either getting rid of that incumbent or re-electing that incumbent. It becomes a litmus test on that incumbent. And this year, the media just absolutely just pretended that they were the only two people running. Despite all of that, we got the second highest number of votes that we've ever gotten. And that is completely unacceptable. It is unacceptable that in this point, the Libertarian Party is still relying on factors that have absolutely nothing to do with our party, our messaging, our campaigning, our activism, our grassroots outreach, our messaging, or anything else. It is entirely reliant on outside factors. Is an incumbent running for re-election? Are there lockdowns in place? Is the media paying enough attention to us? All of these things that have absolutely nothing to do with anything we're doing right or wrong. And even then, it doesn't determine whether or not we win. It doesn't determine whether or not we get enough support to get on the debate stage. It determines whether we get 1% or 3%. That's unacceptable. And at this point, I tell people all the time, I was in business and I retired from business and was fully fine with being retired. I came out of retirement to grow this party. I did not come out of this retirement to lead a party that is going to continue failing admirably. The era of failing admirably is over, and it is time to grow the party. And that looks like many things. It looks like growing the grassroots through the activism that we have done that has work to grow the grassroots to the point it is and just continuing to do that and ramping it up. It looks like looking at the people that have actually won their races and demystifying the idea of libertarians winning races. And instead of going, oh, it's this thing that never happens, we acknowledge that it does happen. It happens a lot. And it happens because of libertarian candidates doing a specific set of things that need to be done in order for people to win elections at the local and regional level, and replicating those successes across the country and building that as a network of libertarian activists and candidates who are able to build a grassroots support for higher ticket races, people running for statewide races, people running for federal races, people running for the White House. I have people that are already asking me, are you going to run in 2024 for president? And my answer is very straightforward. I don't want to run for something where I don't have a shot in hell of even getting on the debate stage, much less actually winning it. So between now and 2024, my singular focus is going to be on growing this party into a formidable force that is able to contend and contest and win big elections across the country, including the White House, so that no matter who we run in 2024, they actually have a shot in hell of making it on the debate stage. They have enough support that the media has to pay attention to them. We don't have to do convoys where we beg people to let us speak. We have the attention because we have the support, and they can't not pay attention to it. So that's what my focus is on. If it lends itself to my becoming the presidential nominee, so be it. If it lends itself to someone better than me being the presidential nominee, I am perfectly fine about that. This was never about my personal political aspirations. This was always about growing the party. And we have to do the hard work to be able to actually grow it into something that can contest those elections.
So what could someone new like James and I, what's our best way to get involved and infiltrate the party, and also best advocate for maybe our friends who are trying to sway us away from it?
So the biggest thing you can do, go into Facebook groups. And if you see anyone that's saying anything that isn't 100% in line with orthodox libertarianism, call them a statist bootlicker, and use those like tag groups where you tag them in things where you accuse them of being like a Republican. Yeah. Why are men even, or whatever? Like tag those things and make them feel really alienated and push them away. No.
Should we call them stupid?
You don't want anybody.
Call them pathetic. What was it they called you? Pathetic?
Pathetic.
Call them pathetic. So,
write that down. If you're not 100% libertarian on day one, we do not want you. Day one. You have to.
And the fact that the vast majority of us came here as not 100% libertarian, and many of us still here are not 100% libertarian and can even agree on what 100% libertarian, irrelevant. If they say anything that does not line up with your individual orthodoxy idea of what libertarianism is, you have to make them feel unwelcome and push them away until they actively hate us. No. Do
you have t-shirts? Because it's a little clunky. It's a little clunky, but I'd put that on a t-shirt.
Like just that long ass thing that I just said in justified alignment. So it's just a big block.
Yeah.
Of text.
Yeah. And then, I want people to stare at your chest trying to read this beratement.
Call them what is this? So no, so the things that you can do are, if you haven't already, join your state and local affiliate. Well, first of all, join the national party, and then join your state and local affiliates. Another thing that you can do is something that I almost called you princess, something that Sarahbrook has been doing. So she's actually reaching out, and I've been helping her with this. She's reaching out to libertarians across the country because she has an initiative. Can I talk about this? Is this in top secret?
Yeah, do it.
Okay.
Do it.
So she has I didn't know if this was like top secret. She has this initiative. We're calling it the Cocaine Initiative. No, she has an initiative where in states that have decriminalized or deregulated drug possession and sales to push for people that are still in jail, that on for selling the things that are now legal or decriminalized, push to have their records either commuted or pardoned and expunged. And she's doing it in Colorado, but she's also trying to coordinate and collaborate with libertarians in other similar states to work on having it done and to find libertarians. Because here's the thing, in the age of the internet, they don't have to be in a state that does it. They just have to want to do it and help you. They can help you from their state. So she's working on that. That's the perfect example of something that is outside of immediate electoral politics, but it can reach a group of people that have a vested interest in that one slice of libertarian policy, if nothing else, and show them that this is what libertarians are about. So that's a great way to do it. My best answer when people say, what can I do? I say, jump in feet first and join the local and state affiliates, talk to the, if you don't have a local affiliate, start your own or join a nearby local affiliate. If you are thinking of running for an office, talk to the people who have won elections. Okay, talk to Kara Schultz, talk to Kalish Morrow, talk to Kate O'Brien, talk to, who else? Jeff Hewitt, talk to these people who have won elections because they can actually tell you how to do it and they'd be happy to do it. They'd love to help you with it, especially Kara Schultz. She actually leads the organization for elected libertarians. She would love to talk to you for hours about all the things that you need to do. And if you're not willing to do all of that, then go help someone in their campaign. So really just get involved. The one caveat I will give you, and I'm talking to you, Sarahbrook, because you're new.
Okay.
Do not let yourself burn out. Okay? Because you're new. And here's what happens. Here is the cycle of burned out libertarian activism. You get in, you hear our ideas, you go, oh my God, if we could get this done, we have changed society. And this is going to happen today. I'm going to make this happen now.
Yes! Right now, tomorrow. It's been too late. Because here's the thing. We cannot just sit here and let people suffer and rot away in our prisons when, they can't vote for us if they're in jail. And we've already decided as a society that it's not a crime. So let them the fuck out. That's $35,000 a year per person that could be going to healthcare, that could be going to education, that could be going to the fire department, the police, 1312. Do you not, it's a waste of money. We're not allocating our sources correctly. Mm-hmm. But then on top of that, if you want to sell weed in Colorado, you cannot have a criminal record. And more often than not, their record is the drug offense. You're blocking an entire demographic out of the weed market. Why? Why are you doing that to them? These people have done nothing but try to love you, but take care of you, but pay their taxes, pay their bills, and you're just going to demonize them and mistreat them. It's like watching someone beat their dog. It is so just heartbreaking to me to see it. And it's the one thing we can do that, I don't have a criminal record. It does nothing for me that Joe Blow on the corner can sell his fucking weed. But it's his American right and dream. And an injustice anywhere is an injustice everywhere. So why not just reallocate our sources? I'm ranting. We've already decided.
Keep going. No.
We've already.
It's not a take on everything show until Sarahbrook rants.
It's so ridiculous. It's so just a mindless thing that we're doing. And people call us selfish and they call us delusional. And it's because we are so good at screaming and tearing people down for their bad ideas, but we won't execute on a good one. And we won't take the fucking time to talk to someone about something that could really help them. Because if we let these people out of jail, if we expunge their records, we have them as voters, we have their friends as voters, we have their family as voters. And that's an entire voting block that we've just opened up for ourselves because we gave a shit about someone, even if it didn't directly impact us.
Yes.
But then additionally, Colorado already has an initiative to get their records expunged. And out of 217,000 records, do you know how many they've done?
Probably next to none.
71. That is fucking shameful. What are you doing? It's a pandemic. All you had to do was fucking sign it. You took their money. It costs $261 to $240 to get your records expunged. You take that money, you make them sit through this bullshit process, and then you say, no, because back in 2014, you had a little blip here. And you're going to judge someone capable of evolution and growth on one thing they did years ago, and now their whole life is ruined. But then additionally, just mass incarceration as a whole. You mean to tell me that this nation is so amoral, so dumb, so bad that we have to lock up 6.2 million people? You're going to accept that we're just that awful and not that maybe we're holding people to a higher standard that they cannot maintain. Maybe the expectation is just too much, or maybe we're lining someone's pockets, because what purpose does it really serve that someone is stuck They don't have their parents because their dad's stuck in prison, and you're going to make fun of them for not having dads, and then you're going to make fun of them for not being able to feed their families because you took away one of their breadwinners, but you're going to demonize them when you're feeding your family on the backs of their slavery. And how can you sit comfortable in your heatless apartment knowing that people are suffering in jail?
So everything you just said, 100% correct, right? All of the passion that you have behind that, 100% justified. And so you come in with that passion and you come in with that excitement because you're ready for it to happen now because people are suffering in cages, right? People are dying in wars. Children are starving. Families are being destroyed. People's businesses are being destroyed. All of that stuff, right? And so what happens is because you are being driven by something bigger than yourself, you push yourself beyond what you can sustainably sustain in doing as a person, right? And the other thing that happens is other people who are naturally inclined to just hand you stuff to do because you're the new person that's real excited. And so you're going and going and going and going. And I'm not going to let myself burn out. I'm not going to let myself burn out because you're not doing this for Sarahbrook. You're doing this for the people in the prisons. You're doing this for the people in the camps on the border. You're doing this for the people overseas. You're doing this for the children who are growing up to be scared of sunny days overseas because those are the days that the bombers and the drone strikes happen. All of that, right? And then eventually your body and your psychological mindset reach a point where you have to stop. And when that happens, very often, you're gone for good, or you're gone for many years. You still believe everything you believe. You still, still support us, voting for us or whatever. But in terms of actual full-on activism, you say, I can't do this, or at least I can't do it like that. And if you do come back, it's many years later and it's at a much lower capacity. So here is what I am telling you. Sustainably long-term to be able to do that. I'm not telling you don't do what you're doing. I'm saying you have to allow yourself moments that are not activism. You have to allow yourself entire days and weeks that are just for you. And those times when you feel compelled to put yourself and your needs aside. And I'm not just talking to you, I'm talking to everyone, because everyone does this. Everyone that comes in is like, I'm on fire, we're gonna make it all happen right now. And what happens is that's not how a society of 330 million people who have been heavily conditioned to believe in the presumption of authority, right? So this is a long slog. And there are many, and I'm not trying to disabuse you of the notion that big things can happen quickly, because they can. I'm telling you, everything's not going to happen immediately in the timetable we want, because if it did, it would have already happened long before we were even trying to do this, right? So you have to make sure that you are protecting number one, because any of those times when you start thinking, yeah, but what about the kids in the cages? What about the people whose lives are being destroyed? You have to say to yourself, I can't serve them properly if I'm not taking care of myself, so that this remains something I can sustainably do for years and, decades, right? So, because even after we succeed in getting all the people out of the cages, there's whatever the next thing is. There's going to always be that fight, at least in our lifetimes. There is no libertopia. In anarchism, we call it the Rothbard button. So Murray Rothbard talked about, if there were a button that you could press that would make all government and coercion go away, would you press it? And the answer is yes. But there is no Rothbard button. We have to actually do the hard work to make these things happen. So the two things I tell people is jump right in, but also come up for air sometimes. So, make sure that you are taking care of yourself and you're not burning out, because I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen with some people in a matter of like 3 weeks. They come in so hard and every single day, I don't need to sleep until liberty is in our and then they're done because they didn't sleep and they weren't eating, and like they let it go. So, and I'm not saying you're going to do that, because I don't think you're going to do that.
Because I'm doing it because I'm up at 4 a.m. making liberty memes. You're right.
No. But here's the thing. I'm up at 4 a.m. too. I'm not saying don't let this be your big thing. I'm saying, and I'm not even talking directly to you. I'm talking to everyone that's watching this, because you said, what can we do? We can jump in feet first, and we can come up for air occasionally, and we can in fact, stay up for air. We really don't need to ever not be breathing. So we need to have our head above water the whole time. and we need to still get together with loved ones who are normies. That's the other thing. You'll lose perspective, right? So if you're not still hanging out with normies and having a normal, not libertarian life, you will very quickly go and be around the hoi polloi of the world, and they'll say something, and you go, you fucking moron, because you get distant. You reach a point where, like, someone asking a question about how contracts would work in a post-state society is like, why would you even ask that? Of course, that would be handled by private arbitrators. But so then you get out into the world where they're talking about, like, man, I wish the government would give us more money for our schools. And you're like, you bootlicking jerk status. Like, it happens quickly. Like, you lose perspective quickly. Go out, be around normal people. One of the reasons that I'm so relatable to non-libertarians and am able to give a libertarian message that connects with people that know nothing about our ideas is because I mostly spend time with non-libertarians. And I know how to talk to them about stuff. And I know that if I go in and I start talking to them about the non-aggression principle and about, private rights are more important than your feelings, private property rights, and I start talking about how, the Constitution was an illegal power grab from the Articles of Confederation. Like, this is not how people are normally. And it doesn't connect with them, and it scares them. And so, especially if they're talking about something like COVID-19 or criminal justice or education or healthcare or whatever else, when we try to talk to them about stuff the way we talk to each other about stuff, they're going to look at us like, what did that even mean? I don't know who's going to pay for my healthcare, right? So we have to talk to them on their terms. And the best way to do that is to remember what they're like. Make sure you're being around normal people. Make sure that you are doing healthy things that aren't just liberty stuff. Have a balanced perspective on how you do. And that's just a good life idea, good life advice in general. I'm a millennial, but I'm a millennial with male pattern baldness. I'm 38. So I have a lot of life experience. And I feel every bit of 38 and then some. But it's good to jump into this and to be super principled and to be super on fire for liberty. It's good to have perspective, because it's true that those people are in those cages. And the only way we're going to get out is if we are able to consistently apply the pressure and activism needed to get them out. And that's not going to happen today. It's not going to happen this week. It's not going to happen this month. It might happen this month for some people, but as a whole systemic change, ending the for-profit, prison labor industry, ending this stuff is going to take a long-term haul that requires long-term sustainable activism. And it also requires relating to people, which comes with being with normal people. So that's what you can do.
That is really good advice.
Those are great points. And guys listening, if you want to hear a little bit more about mass incarceration and the drug war and all the problems that it has, Sarahbrook and I did an episode 9 on the Take on Everything. Check that out. We go into detail with a lot more depth and statistics, and talking about individual stories of people that have really been affected by that. So that's a great topic. It's a great talking point when talking to normies and other people like that. So I want to transition into going forward. So, and then again, that's a great point with don't let yourself burn out, because you are ineffective if you let yourself burn out. So going forward, so I'm new to the Libertarian Party. Don't get burned out. I got that on the checklist. So how do we, and you talked a little bit about something where staying principled and knowing how to talk to people where they're at, which is really important. There's a kind of a divide within the Libertarian Party and within libertarians as how do you best message to people? I think this is really key. Going forward, some people say the only way to go forward is to message like radical things and not be afraid to talk about things, which I perfectly get. I know it's very important to talk about real ideas with people. But how do you communicate those ideas that's not going to scare them? Because a lot of times, like you said, when we're talking to each other, how do we move forward with this message?
So this is the debate of the ages, and I will submit that the debate has largely been built on a false dichotomy on both sides. So we have had, and I'm not saying this is what you're doing. I'm saying this is what the general libertarian within the Libertarian Party, what the argument has been. You have had one side that has said, we need to tell the truth no matter how much it offends those pansies out there. And we need to, just put it all out there in the most principled way possible. And if it offends them, then that's on them and they're going to have to deal with it. And then you have the other side that says, our ideas are scary. You're scary, the person that just said that. And I don't ever want you talking to anyone. And what we need to do is we need to present a message that's relatable to people. And that means we're going to have to kind of tone down what our beliefs are, because our beliefs sound kind of scary. If someone says, that they want their schools to be better, and we say that we want to eliminate the federal Department of Education, that's going to scare them. And so we need to kind of be soft in how we present the message and more moderate about it. I submit that both of those are wrong, because both of them are conflating moderation of policy with relatability. One is saying that I refuse to moderate my policy, therefore I refuse to be relatable. And the other one is saying I demand that we be relatable, therefore we must moderate our policy. Both of them are making a de facto concession about the idea that our ideas aren't sellable, which is weird. But anyway, so here is my belief on this. And this is from 20 plus years of business leadership and marketing talking, outside of even just many years of politics, but also many years of just sales in general. It doesn't matter what you're selling. It matters that you are able to connect with the person or people that you are talking to in such a way that you can take them on the journey wherever you want to. So when I would cold call businesses to try to sell them on a 5-figure website package and get them in a matter of 4 or 5 minutes from wanting to get me off the phone and having no idea who the hell I am to telling me about their business needs and giving me their contact information so that I can send them a more proper proposal by email, is by starting with connecting with them. So more so than the debate on how moderate or how principled we should be. I am an anarchist. I just did a campaign where we never explicitly said that there was anything that we wanted the government to actually do. All we did was say things, think about it. All we ever did was say things that we didn't want the government to do. We never actually said we wanted the government. Yeah. We never actually said we wanted the government to even exist. We never even answered the question. Okay. I was able to go into police organizations and talk with them and get cheers from them. And the reason I was able to do that was because I connected with my audience. And the way that you connect with people is you go into their spaces and talk to them from their precepts. When I would go to Second Amendment rallies, when I would go to anti-lockdown protests, when I would organize anti-lockdown protests, when I would go to Black Lives Matter protests, when I would help set up and keynote at Black Lives Matter protests, when I would set up and help organize protests that were a combination of Boog Boys, Black Panthers, Black Guns Matter, and Black Lives Matter, when I would meet with them, I would meet them where they were, where they wanted to go, talk to them on their terms, listen to what their issues were, relate back that I was listening to them, demonstrate that I actually understood the problems that they were facing, and then once I had made all the connections necessary, I took them on the journey for how maximizing human liberty is the best way forward. Now, here's why that works. When I go into a space and I ask the people what's going on, and I open by asking them what their concerns are, and after they tell me what their concerns are, I follow up by asking additional questions based on the things that they've said to me. Many things are happening there. Consciously, they're recognizing that I actually care about them because I'm asking questions. I'm actually listening to them. I'm not just hearing them, I'm listening to them. So consciously, they're like, wow, this person actually cares about me. And there's an old phrase in marketing: no one cares what you know until they know that you care. So you've done that, but subconsciously, it's way more important what's happening. Subconsciously, whether they like it or not, they are building. Their lizard brain is building a bond with you because they are telling you things that matter a lot to them. They are opening themselves more and more, especially as you ask more questions, which they are happy to answer. They are subconsciously opening themselves to you. And by allowing them to do the majority of the speaking, at least in that initial phase, they are subconsciously convincing themselves that whatever the conclusion of that conversation is was their idea, even if you're the one that took them on the journey. This is all old school sales and marketing techniques, right? So you get them there. You get them, you're taking them on the journey. You're developing a bond with them. Now, when I talk to them about stuff like defunding the police or getting rid of the Department of Education or any of that stuff, first of all, I don't just say, and the answer is to get rid of the Department of Education. When they say they're worried about education, I go, wow, our education system is a mess. After asking them their questions, whatever they've said to me, I reflect back to them and go, listen, what you're telling me and what I've heard from many other Americans across the country is that this education system is a mess. And it makes sense that it would be a mess. The federal government is taking control. They've taken your money. They've taken away your ability to make decisions for your schools. They've taken away your school district's ability to make decisions for the schools. And they've taken away all of the funding into a centrally planned system that's based on standardized testing. And that standardized testing is all built around just this ridiculous metric of how well your kid tests. And if your kid doesn't test well, they built a loophole around that by labeling your kid special needs, whether they are or not, because then that way they're able to take them off the rolls and say that the standardized testing's high because they're taking an increasing number of children and just not including them. They call it No Child Left Behind, but it's the opposite, an increasing number of children being left behind. And they know all this. And they now know that you know all of this. Then you go, and here's the problem. The federal government took all your money and your power. We're going to take it from them, and we're going to put it back in your schools and your districts. I just told them that I'm going to abolish the Department of Education in a way that intuitively connects with what they are concerned about. And before I even did that, I showed them that I cared about them in the first damn place. This is how you connect with normal people. I presented what could just as soon be an anarchist solution to their problem, but I did it in a way that connected with them. I didn't go in and say, well, you know what the problem is? The problem is you think the government should be paying for your kid to go to school. What are you, a welfare queen? I connected with them on their concerns, right? And I've done that stuff before. I was that edgy guy that would say that stuff. And then one day I'm thinking, this isn't how I talk to clients. This isn't how you actually affect change. You affect change by meeting people where they are, not pandering to them. You never tell them anything that isn't true. You never agree with something they say that isn't true. You just redirect. So if they go to me and they go, the government needs to be giving us more for healthcare, I go, listen, this healthcare system's a mess. If you end up in a hospital, you could be ruined financially for years. This government spends more money per civilian, per citizen in tax revenue on healthcare than all but three or four other countries. Okay, we are spending way more money on healthcare, and that's what the government's spending. That doesn't include the 2 or 3 times that we're spending out of pocket. Why? So that big pharma can make billions of dollars on patent protected drugs that have been around for longer than any of us have been alive, so that major crony hospital systems can make a fortune on the backs of our need for healthcare and cutting out their smaller competitors. That doesn't make any sense. And they're like, no, that doesn't make any sense. And I go, you know what the problem is all the red tape that they put in place that drives up the cost of healthcare, that makes it unaffordable for small businesses to be able to compete in the healthcare sector, that makes it so that you don't even know what the price of the healthcare services you're getting are until you run it through this Byzantine system of red tape. It's why when you go into a hospital, you've got 1 or 2 doctors and a handful of nurses and dozens of administrators, not to mention the thousands of administrators that you can't see that are off-site at regulatory agencies and insurance companies and pharmaceutical companies and everything else. That's what the cost of healthcare is. And if we get rid of that burden, we can reduce the cost of healthcare. Some studies have shown as much as 75 or 80%. Not only does that make your healthcare affordable, it makes Medicare affordable. It makes Medicaid affordable and sustainable. We can solve this system by getting these cronies out of it. I just told them that we're going to privatize healthcare. Go ahead.
See, I love the beauty of what your combination, your approach. This is the beauty of it, because like you said, it's kind of a false dichotomy. I feel like libertarianism has the most beautiful and unifying message in all of politics. And you can talk to any person, any rational person. You can present them a libertarian idea and they will love it. If you learn how to, like you said, talk to them where they're at, talk to them from their precepts, and bring them to here's the solution. But like you said, if you just yell at people, like a lot of us with a lot of energy, I do this too much, and I keep reminding myself not to do this. But if you just yell at people and say you're wrong because of this, this, and this stat, this fact, and all this, they're not going to listen to you. All you're going to do is gain an argument and not
you're going to win an
intellectual companion.
No, sorry, go ahead.
Point.
No, go ahead.
Yes. You're not even going to win. There's no way that'll concede, not a chance. But so the beauty of it is, libertarian, you don't have to come from one different perspective. And I think that's part of some of the arguments that I hear where we need to be strong on this messaging or strong on that messaging. It comes from one precept, like so maybe somebody. So I'm typically, you would consider myself like from the right. I was a Republican at one time when I was like 18 years old. So I came to libertarianism from the right. And so there's a lot of ideas that libertarians had that drew me there. And then I kind of went off to the other side. So I'm actually an anarchist as well. I've fallen to Ancapistan is my home country at this point. But it started on, yeah, exactly. So it's just such a beautiful philosophy. It can take people from the left, from the right, and bring them together on this. And we don't all have to come from the same preconceived notions, but we all end up, if you're led there and marketed to correctly, we all end up in the same spot because the solution is for everyone.
Is someone who he has his podcast, which is called Anti-War. He's written some books. He's one of the most, in my mind, underrated libertarian thinkers and podcasters in our generation. And something he says, which I have totally stolen from him, is that people on the left have valid concerns. People on the right have valid concerns. People in the center have valid concerns. Even if their policy ideas of how they should go forward are misguided very often and wrong, their concerns are very, very, very valid, right? And we're better than them on those ideas. We're better than the left on the things the left cares about in terms of actual policy. We're better than the right on the things that the right cares about. And for that matter, we're better than the center on the things the center cares about. So why the hell are we arguing with them? If they have a valid concern, validate their concern. And if they put you on the spot and go, well, so do you support Medicare for all? You say, I support making healthcare affordable. And if they go, well, but do you support Medicare? You say, no, I support making healthcare affordable. And here's why. And you take them on that journey. You take them on the journey because you have to. Because our ideas, the mainstream of political thought is, if you're looking at one of those, political compasses, up, down, left, right, our political compass, what's considered the spectrum of allowable political opinion or mainstream political opinion is this tiny little bubble up in the authoritarian, kind of on the right, but not that far off from center, and that's all of it, like literally all of it, from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez all the way over to Donald Trump and everything in between is this very small sliver, on the, well, I guess she would kind of be just slightly over to the left of the center, but it sort of occupies a right side of the center, but up in the authoritarian sphere. And we're way down at the bottom and on a much wider base of thought from left to right. And so, we sound nuts to these people. If we go up and just have a straight up conversation where we go, just talking policy, and we're like, we support abolishing all gun laws and getting rid of the FDA and the CDC and the Department of Education and the Department of Health and abolishing most laws and freeing most people from prisons and ending all wars and bringing the troops home and blah, 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 blah. They might agree with some of those things, but most of it they're going to be like, holy crap, that's way too much. That's not how you do it. That's not how they got where they are. They got where they are from people relating to them and conditioning to them. And we have to do the same thing. The difference is it's going to be easier for us to do it because we're not bullshitting them. We're actually saying something that intuitively makes sense once you peel back all that nonsense. So all you got to do is massage it a little bit with just relating to them. And the best way you can do that? By being a normal person. I know.
You're like, what?
I thought once I joined the party, like normalcy went out the window. You're telling me I can still be in a jogging group with my friends and be a libertarian?
Yes, I'm telling you should actually be in a jogging group and be a libertarian. And don't be the libertarian in the jogging group. You can just be in the jogging group. There are people.
I can be a jogger who happens to be a libertarian.
You can be just a jogger. And then one day they're talking politics and you just start, you start relating to them and saying stuff and they go, oh, that sounds interesting. And you go, yeah, it's called libertarianism. And they go, huh, I think I've heard of that before. Like, you could just be a normal person. You can do all of your activism and advocacy and everything else. And you can even include them in that. You can do whatever you want with that. You don't have to wear libertarian on your sleeve. You can if you want to, but you don't have to. I don't. I don't. Well, I mean, now I do because I was freaking.
I have to stop you guys right
No,
there. It
I'm
sounds
not.
like you guys are not real libertarians.
Sorry.
Okay, I'm just
Sorry. I'm not a real.
I don't think
I'm
I
a
can do
chocolate
this
libertarian
anymore.
with sprinkles. Thank you.
There's something. That's a new caucus, by the way. So there was like a meme, whatever phrase thing going around, and I think this is really important. It said, "I'm for affordable education. I'm for affordable college. I'm for affordable healthcare. I am for peace. I'm for all of these things. I'm not against any of this. I just really think the government is the worst provider of all of these services." So I think that's the thing that a lot of libertarians don't communicate very well, is that we're not against any of this stuff. We just want it done correctly. And the government has historically not been able to provide any of this stuff. So the constant belief that, we can do it different this time is really what gets us to where we're at now, where we're in a hole, we're in a mess, and we can't dig out because we have this insanity. We go back and say, well, government can do it this time. My guy is going to do it this time. And that's the problem, I feel like, with the whole cult of personality around Trump or, Bernie Sanders or any of those guys. If you put your faith in a person, instead of looking at the system that they're in as a whole, whether that person says they can provide, even if that person believes, like AOC believes she can deliver on a lot of this stuff, the system that she's advocating deliver her remedies is historically incapable and actually detrimental to a lot of the goals that are stated. And so I think it's counterproductive to argue with people about people. I think it's very productive to talk to people about ideas, and whether it's even, maybe, yes, I want affordable education, which is why it was beautiful that you talked about the Department of Education. It's like, yes, we're in a mess. Here's why we're in a mess. This is why I think, it's great to do this at a local level. It should be handled by parents and teachers and all this. So I think the way it's marketing, the way we communicate this is key.
One key thing is we have been conditioned to believe that government should be giving us things. Okay. Again, that starts very, very early on. And the way we can message that is say, they've robbed you, and we're going to give you back what they robbed you. Instead of just saying it should be handled locally, because they go, well, what about the money? And our libertarian leaning go, there's not going to be any damn money. You're not getting any money, right? But instead, the way you phrase it is you say, we're going to give you all that power and money back and the freedom to make decisions, which is true. We didn't say we're going to write you a check. We're going to give you your money back. We're going to stop robbing you. So just little things like that. It's not a pander. It's not lying. It's not even twisting the truth. It's literally just saying the reality that when you aren't being robbed by government, your money is being de facto given back to you. And with you being allowed to make those decisions. And that connects especially with the most marginalized among us. I mean, when I was in Oakland, most of the people that came out to my event were not libertarians. They were people in that general area. Which was a heavily African-American neighborhood outside of the park that we were in, that we were doing the event in, that came there because there was a big giant bus that said president on it. And I'm there yelling into the AV system with our speakers, strategically placed to bounce off of the lake so everyone could hear it. And they're coming out asking all these questions. What are you going to give us? What are you going to give us? And I'm answering, we're going to give you your money back. We're going to give you your power back. We're going to take it from those people who don't care about you, people who don't care if you're marching in the streets. They're still going to do whatever they want to you. And we're going to take everything that they've stolen back from you so that you can make the decisions for yourself. And we left there with people joining up to the party. They'd never even heard of the Libertarian Party before. You connect with people on their terms and from their precepts. One final thing I want to say, I did this in the party itself. The reason I was able to get, for those who don't know, I was able to get a lot of different endorsements from different caucuses within the party that are wildly divergent in their beliefs, in their strategy, in their outlook of how the party should go. I got endorsements across the political spectrum and within the party. And it is a very contentious party because we have a lot of very smart, cerebral people that like to argue everything, right? It's iron sharpens iron, but it's a lot of sharpening happening. And I was able to do that because your iron's
just a warning for everyone that may be curious.
But it's good. I mean, it's good stuff. And I'm trying to work on it being a little less sharp. But the way that I was able to do that was by applying the same techniques that I ended up using in the general public with normies. Meet them where they are, understand that their precepts and their concerns are valid, and then message to them based on what their concerns are. It works with everybody. So that's what I'd say. Relate to people, be normal, don't burn out, jump in head first, get excited, but don't let this isn't your life. This is a part of your life and your activism. It might be your life's work, but your life is also like jogging and having friends and, like enjoying life and things like that. Lead a real life.
Lead a real life. You heard it from Spike.
All right, guys, this is fun. Spike, it was a pleasure speaking with you. You definitely have my vote. I don't know about the rest of you guys, but I've been convinced.
Thank you.
The way you can connect.
So Spike, before you go, for anybody that maybe hasn't heard of Spike, doesn't follow Spike, go ahead and plug your Muddy Waters Media, any kind of social media accounts you want to. We want to get you people following you, people listening to you, people having that iron sharpens iron, but also learning how to communicate.
Iron sharpening iron, and then being put in a nice, like, cozy sheath afterwards. So it's not for public consumption.
That's right. For public consumption, you don't want to have to go all blade out there.
Public. God. So there's two different sets of.
Is that a euphemism?
No. How dare you? No, that was like an actual. You don't walk around with a sword.
Not.
Weird. So I have two different sets of social media. One is Muddied Waters Media, which are the shows that I have. Some are entertainment, some are interviews, and some are like news infotainment, like daily show style stuff. And that's Muddied Waters Media, MUDDIEED, Muddied Waters, not Muddy Waters, Muddied Waters. And that's on everything. That's on Facebook. Waters that have already been muddy. The Muddied Waters Media. Past tense, muddy. What? Anyway, so
I still don't understand. Can you restate that in a more creative way?
Imagine water that has been made muddy previously.
Okay.
It is Muddied Waters Media, and so you can find that on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. Gosh, I think we're on TikTok. We have a Discord. We're on Twitch. We're on Parler and MeWe. We're on everything. I think we're on Reddit. We're on everything. And equally, if you want to reach out to my politician/pundit stuff, that's where I'm a little bit more heavy in policy and the occasional meme, because I am a meme lord. Then go to Spike Cohen, SpikeCohen, and that's on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter, on Instagram. I got a TikTok for the kids. I don't think we're on Discord. Yeah, we aren't on Discord anymore, but we are on Reddit. I think that's it. Yeah, I'm on everything. So Spike Cohen,
Guys, Spike is on
Spike
everything.
Cohen or Muddied Waters Media. You can find me on all that stuff. If you are looking for, when you have people, if you're one of these folks that you want to talk to people about libertarianism, but you don't like having to explain the same things over and over again. If someone asks you a question, yeah, but what about the roads? What about healthcare? What about this? What about that? Go to my YouTube. Look up Spike Cohen on YouTube, or go to youtube.com/literally Spike Cohen. And I've probably made a video for that exact question. Probably multiple videos for that exact question. That has become a great resource for people talking to normies who don't want to keep doing this and have just the emotional labor of having to explain the same thing over and over again. Just use my video and send that to them and go, here, Spike Cohen will explain it. They'll go, who the hell is Spike Cohen? You go, that part doesn't matter. Just watch the video. He'll explain it to you. That has been a really good resource. So yeah, and if anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out to me on my social media. And if you want to find out more about the party, lp.org to join the Libertarian Party and find out about us. We'd love to have you join us. We are just getting started, and we are fighting for a world set free in our time. And I believe that our time is now.
Absolutely.
That's beautiful, Spike. Spike, thanks you for joining us. This has been fantastic. I hope everybody listening has had a wonderful time listening to Spike Cohen. I hope you're intrigued about libertarianism, at least curious about it, and willing to work on coalition building and that kind of thing going forward. So, Spike, thanks again for joining us. And take care, guys. Tune in next week. Like, comment, subscribe, and we will see you then.